Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you. Bye. Hi, Susie.
Hey, Becky. How was the movie?
Great.
Did the good guys win and the bad guys lose?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
like,
shoot. Sorry, I gotta grab this call before the meeting. I'll be right back.
yeah.
You can hear me? Are you on the internet?
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Hello.
Hey,
I have to plug my computer in so we don't go down. I don't go down.
Good plan, good plan.
Go ahead and start if you have to. I can hear everybody.
We have one more minute, Melissa.
Okay, sorry.
No, don't apologize.
It's been a day and a half, and it's only been one day, actually. Not even 24 hours. There we go. All right.
It's all uphill from here.
Huh? It's all uphill?
I said it's all uphill from here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call a meeting of the Shutesbury Select Board. Today is August, oh boy. What is
30th.
today? 30th? 30th.
Yeah. I know,
August
I was
30th,
surprised too.
2022, and we are holding this meeting via Zoom. The first item is just reviewing the agenda for this evening. So we have public comment, then we'll be reviewing minutes. Scheduled at 5:45, Doug Slaughter, who's already has joined us, is going to be presenting an update on the high school track and field. We're doing the highway superintendent's contract extension, and then we have a whole slew of appointments to do this evening, including the Historical Commission, Council on Aging, Town Building Committee, Library Building Committee, and Town Administrator updates. So I'm calling this the, other than Doug, I'm calling this the appointments meeting. Lots of appointments. So we'll open just by seeing if there are any public comments, and I ask that you use the raised hand feature if you have a comment that you want to make, and to try to limit it to 2 to 3 minutes at max. So is there anybody who is in attendance this evening who'd like to make a comment? Okay, so we're going to move right along then to review the minutes of August 16th, 2022. I know Linda prepared them. I assume Melissa and Eric, you've had a chance to take a look at them. Are there any comments, or does somebody want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes from the August 17th? No,
16.
16th. I'm sorry, 16th. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Additions, deletions, any edits? No?
Good to me.
Thank you, Linda, for sticking with us.
Yes.
Extending your time. So we really appreciate the fact that you have done that. So the motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of August 16th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace, O'Neill. Aye.
Darker eye.
Carol, aye. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Becky, how do you feel about going ahead? You know, Doug is here.
I know I let the finance committee know he was gonna be here. I only told one person the time. Susie's here early.
Okay,
I only told AJ it would be at 5:45, but he was gonna tune in. I could maybe let him know
okay.
if you want to.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay. Yeah, I think I better call him.
did say that he would be traveling en route and tried to tune in, but I should take notes and fill the FinCom in because I told him I was coming.
Now we can hear.
Doug, do you have anything that you're going to want to put up on the screen, or is this all just?
I do have a little slide presentation
Okay.
of about 4 or 5 slides that
Okay.
I'll share,
Okay,
and then I'll send you guys a copy when I finish tonight. But
okay, great, thank you. Does Becky have those already, or you're just gonna?
I'm not sure that she does. I don't think
Okay.
I didn't send them to her today, and I can't remember if I sent them to her earlier. So I will
Okay.
send them tonight for sure.
All right, fine.
Doug, I made you a co-host so you can,
Hopefully it's going to come up.
great.
Oh, beautiful.
So if I look like I'm staring at the ceiling, it's just because I have my monitors stacked, and the one I'm looking at is the one that has the presentation versus
Okay,
guys.
Becky, did you reach AJ or no? All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? Since Susie is here and you had already agreed, Susie, to take notes. So I want to introduce Doug Slaughter, who is the finance director for the regional schools. And we have met with Doug before, and we have talked about the track and field project before. I know there's been some previous discussion very early on with the Community Preservation Committee. That was back maybe a couple of years ago and then when COVID happened and things got just kind of put on the back burner, but it is moving ahead, and we had a town meeting vote around moving ahead with this. So Doug, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about this project.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to spend a few minutes tonight kind of updating you on where we are. This, a lot of this has been probably reported, so it may not be that much news to you, but there's a couple things that I think are perhaps a little new or suggestions for you to think about a little bit. But the other thing I'm hoping to get from you folks tonight is some initial sort of feeling and feedback and sense of your community a little bit about the project and your comfort or discomfort around some of the funding suggestions that are out there and that we're putting forward, and sort of see what your sense of things are at this moment, and then talk about a little bit of the sort of time horizon of the project. So can you see the slides okay? I'm assuming you can. Yes.
They're
Okay.
beautiful.
Yep.
So just to recap a little bit, the school committee voted in March as part of their budget process to do a debt authorization for $1.5 million. And that then of course goes to each of the 4 communities, and they can choose to act on it or not. If they take no action, then it becomes considered a sort of pocket approval. Oop, you're muted there, sorry.
If everybody can mute yourselves, because there's some feedback and it's a little hard to hear Doug, so unmute select board members, but yeah, I'm going to mute myself too.
Okay, thank you. So when the school committee voted that debt authorization, they had sort of 2 different pieces to it, which was a little confusing. Normally don't do it that way, but the language that we put into those debt authorizations is pretty specific in some respects, because it has to go to the Department of Revenue and get approved when we actually go to borrow the money. And so there were sort of 2 options within that authorization. One is just borrow $1.5 million and replace the track in its existing location, essentially where it sits and in the same format that it's in now. Or if appropriate fundraising can happen, and funds be secured, and the school committee feels that they have confidence in that, then they could opt for a different mode of repairing and replacing that track, and so to orient it in a different direction, do an improvement to the field interior to that. There's also some material, some additional surrounding work that goes with it. So it's a real athletic complex project at that point. That option 3 is, as it was defined, was the preferred one for the school committee. They really like that one. It's really dependent upon, can we find and locate and secure enough resources by January in order to move ahead with that option versus just a repair and replacement. Now, the repair and replacement in place is really necessary. We've not had a home track meet since I think it was 2018. So it's really been quite a while. It's proving to be a bit of a difficult location to have track meets and even have track practice. In some respects, kids have to be really careful in and around that facility. It's really degraded. The intention was to do this work a while ago. It was a project that the schools looked at with the town of Amherst in trying to do a comprehensive downtown recreation review, and we did that. And then about the time we were starting to gear up to sort of take on the work, then COVID hit and kind of stalled everything. And so that's kind of delayed things even further for us. So I wanted to provide a little of that context as we come into this. But the school committee likes the option of reorienting the track. It makes a much more useful field interior to that, as well as gives us some options around utilizing the space a little bit better. And that's sort of where they hope we can go. But at the same time, they recognize we're asking a lot of people for a lot of resources. So, last, I want to say it was February, we talked about this. There was a suggestion of ways to sort of potentially fund this. One was a debt authorization of $1.5 million. So that's in place now. There was the idea of potentially using CPA funds to cover about 1.2 million. CPA is eligible for some of the costs, but not all the costs of this project. There are certain things you can't fund with CPA dollars, and so it can't carry really much more than, well, it can carry the amount that was suggested here, but not, there's certain things it can't cover, so we know that. With the ARPA grants, that was a suggested area of resource for various communities. Different communities made different decisions about how they're using their ARPA funds and how much they want to utilize on things, but that was one resource. Certainly Amherst got a fairly large amount because it's a regional resource for other communities around it, and so its overall grant for ARPA funds was in the $11 million range, which was decidedly larger than any of the other three towns in the regional schools. And so what we did relative to that other sources was a portion that cost kind of relative to how that ARPA grant is structured. So it shifts a little more burden to Amherst in that area. And we'll, on the next slide, I'll sort of point that out. We suggested a target of about $1 million for donations. Obviously, if we get more than that, the better. I think there are folks that are working on this currently. They're actively engaged in trying to put the pieces together and try to find some big donors to start out the process, and then sort of open it up to a more modest donors after that. And so that's in process as we speak. Hopefully they'll have a lot of success with that. As always with donations, there's a lot of competing interests for kind of chasing the same dollars. So hopefully that'll be a critical piece of funding this and relieving the burden on the communities. And so what this does is that this kind of shifts the cost around to some other areas. We're looking at it as a regional resource and asking the member towns to support this through means other than just the regional agreement capital planning process and capital planning assessment method, because we brought that before you early in the year and kind of knew the answer before we put it in front of you, but we knew that was going to be a number that was just too big for communities to take on in that regional agreement method that we often use for capital projects. It was just too big a number to take on directly that way. And so we're trying to find some other mechanisms and some other resources that we can kind of leverage and still recognize the regionality of the resource. And so just to take you into a little more detail here, sort of how would we pay it, sort of how did we apportion it to each of the communities? And again, this is probably the exact same slide you may have seen back in February. And basically what we did, with the exception of the other town sources, which is, like ARPA funds or, reserves or whatever, magic pot of money that we might find. With the exception of that, the others are broken up based on the sort of mechanism or the methodology that we use for the regional agreement, which uses equal, EQB values in each of the 4 communities to apportion capital projects. So we use that same metric in these other areas like CPA and that sort of thing. And then for the other town sources, like I said, we use that same concept of sort of, percentages based on which community has which resources, and used the, sort of the ARPA grants as the mechanism for determining how big a piece. And that shifted things in Amherst's direction a little bit because their ARPA grant was a lot larger. That's not to say you have to use or that we're even suggesting you use ARPA funds for that. You may have already dedicated those to other things. That's perfectly fine. It was just a way to recognize that, Amherst has some resources the other 3 towns don't have. It also is going to sit, even though it is a regional resource, and all the regional students and youth actually too, because the youth sports are often take place in the area on that set of fields and in that area. It does sit in Amherst proper, so we recognize that Amherst gets a little more ownership, even though just because of proximity. And so this lays out, for the local taxation piece, that's going to happen kind of either way. It's these other 3 that are there. About 85,000 of CPA is potentially the request we might make from your CPA funds, and then other sources about 40,000 is the number there for Shutesbury, and that gets us, if the other communities sort of carry their weight the way they are laid out here, it would get us to the sort of total dollars we need for that project. Again, these are suggestions. I don't want to, sort of imply that this is a must. These are, outside of your debt authorization, which is a requirement because we've agreed to that. The others are really about each community's, comfort, ability, willingness to do this sort of thing. So one other piece I'll share with you here is that, because of how our fiscal, get the math around this, fiscal 21 ended, our E&D certification process. So if you think about it in your town government, the sort of free cash certification process, we do the same thing with E&D, but we have limits on how much we can have. And so this year we were above that limit. And so what we did was, for each of the 4 communities, we lowered your assessment for the current or the just finished fiscal 22, which means there was a certain amount of money that you got that you didn't spend that you were planning on spending on schools, I guess is the best way to say it. And so it will, as you close out fiscal 22 and sort of go and get your free cash certified, that money will be in your free cash and be available to you for whatever purpose you choose. And what I'm suggesting on this slide, and again, it is a suggestion only, is that, well, that's a resource that you guys were planning on spending on the schools anyway. And by virtue of how our E&D played out and a return of assessment to you, you have that resource available. And what's fortunate for you guys in Shutesbury is the amount we returned to you, which is just under 39,000, is within a few $100s of that piece of the puzzle. Now that's presuming, of course, that CPA is willing and able to fund 85,000, and they may or may not want to do that. And so I'm sort of proposing that as a suggestion. Again, like I said, part of what I'm coming to hear is your community's willingness or to consider this kind of thing, how much, what other constraints you're operating under, double check the timelines for CPA projects, those kind of things. And so I think I'll stop here. I'll answer any questions anybody has, and certainly like to hear your thoughts and perspectives on this project and these ways of potentially funding it and sort of tapping some varied resources from each of the 4 communities.
Thanks, Doug. So I'm going to start with the select board members. Eric or Melissa, do you have any questions for Doug?
Well, I have a question for us, I guess, is just how much CPA money do we have?
I don't know if Mateo has those numbers at his fingertips. We committed substantially more CPA money at this last town meeting, but I think we still probably have something at least in the $250,000 to $300,000 range, and that's roughly rough. So $84,000 would not. It would be over and above what we have allocated for open space and recreation, but we have a pool of undesignated funds that don't have to be spent for community housing or what am I forgetting? Open space, recreation, historic preservation. So we committed, I think, on 3 projects this year. It was a little less than $100,000. So it means I think we have somewhere at least $300,000. Matteo, do you have any, I don't know if you have any of those numbers at your fingertips. Matteo is the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, new chair. So.
I don't have them right in front of me, but I can.
Okay, okay. But in terms of the process for CPA, you know, what the CPC, you know, goes, our applications are typically due. We have a two-step process, and I think final applications are due sometime in January. We haven't set our schedule for this year. We're meeting soon, but it does go to annual town meeting. So that's not till, you know, we scheduled the last Saturday in April. So when I saw that January 1, I think it was a January 1, 2023, that you were looking to sort of pin down sources, we would not have been through the CPA approval process at that point. Doug, I don't know, you know, how strictly you're wanting to stick to that timeline. That's kind of how we operate. And I assume Pelham and Leverett.
Yeah, the other
same.
towns wouldn't either. I wouldn't assume they'd be in the same boat.
That's right. I think that what the school committee is going to have to judge, because I think the phrasing is that, you know, they feel like they've secured that. If they feel as though, you know, if there are recommendations from select boards and finance committees, CPA, you know, or CPC committees to support these different things, they feel like they've, you know, they may feel like they've got a pretty good shot at getting the sort of funding from those different sources. But again, that'll be a determination they're going to need to make. And, you know, obviously, one thing I didn't mention is that the town of Amherst, you know, being a council form of government, they are able to, you know, sort of meet and spend money pretty much anytime they like. I don't use cavalier there, but they have a lot more flexibility that way.
Right.
And they actually have committed, they had previously committed a certain amount of CPA funds to this project, and they committed another 800,000. So they've really already committed, you know, between their CPA funding, that there's about just under 958,000. They have 957,500 or something like that. And then of course they've got their taxation piece, so they've got a pretty good chunk of the you know, funding that is necessary, and it may be that, you know, depending on what happens with fundraising, that may be sufficient sort of cash in hand for the school committee to move ahead relative to their decision in January. And part of the reason for decision in January for them is somewhat about the urgency of moving ahead with the project. Because if they make a decision in January, we have enough, you know, sort of resources immediately available by virtue of the debt authorization to go out and start the design process and you know, securing designers and that sort of thing. And in a very, very perfect world, which would be hopeful, you know, by the, you know, sort of late summer, we might be to a design build. I mean, maybe, you know, done with design, be ready for bidding on construction. And so the idea being that we try to, you know, like I said, in a very optimistic way, you know, start construction, you know, just preliminary stuff in the fall, and then try to finish over the following summer. That would be ideal to get built that quickly. That's, you know, perhaps overly optimistic, but at the same time, that was part of the rationale for them making decision at that January date, recognizing that, you know, all three of the smaller towns are going to make firm commitments if any, in their town meetings in April and May. You know, if they wanted to take action in a fall town meeting, if they were having one, they could, but I'm not seeing that necessarily happening. You know, make my life a lot easier as far as sort of planning and that sort of thing, but it's you know, up to each community and whether they're ready to. They, you know, I don't think that any of the communities are really ready at this, you know, this fall to do that necessarily. Or, you know, I would welcome that if that were true. You know, if in your town meeting, if you want to put on a warrant, if you're having a fall town meeting and you know, have you know, opportunity, motivation, interest, et cetera, to take action, you know, I can tell you the school committee would not be uncomfortable with that. You could make it contingent upon other things, perhaps. But at the same time, I think that, you know, school committee is going to come to January. We're going to need to, you know, have them make a decision based on what they feel like is secure or secure enough as far as resources, and then we'll move ahead with the project at that point as best we can. So it is, you know, a pickle of timing. It's, you know, the difficulty is a bit of a chicken and egg problem here, because it's like, well, if we get commitments from the towns, then the fundraising gets easier. But then the towns are also like, well, if we have commitment of resources from fundraisers, then we feel much more comfortable, committing our money. And so it's, trying to simultaneously kind of motivate people and get them to sort of take some actions. And we're kind of trying to do the best we can to have people feel comfortable in their process of moving ahead. And even a school committee, makes a decision in January, and if the funding doesn't become available, it doesn't matter what their action was. If you just don't have the resource, you can't do it. I mean, that's, just state law. So that's we can't spend money you don't authorize for us to spend.
I see Matteo, did you have something you wanted to add about CPA?
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt that. Just going back to answer your question, that the projects this year authorized 73,000 out of the CPA funds.
Okay,
And yeah, and the deadline for the determination of eligibility will probably be sometime in that first week in December. And then the deadline for the actual application will be probably around the last week in February. So it'll be fairly late in terms of this project.
thanks, Matteo. And Doug, just in response to your kind of mention of special town meetings, if we have a special town meeting, there's been some discussion about the possibility that we haven't had one in the last few years, as far as I recall, but that if we had one, it would be sometime in the winter, and it would be, outside of the CPC process, and there would have to be some urgency for us to take something out of the, out of the cycle. So that would be a decision that the Community Preservation Committee would have to make.
Yeah, I fully respect that, and I fully suppose that would be the likely scenario. But
Yeah.
There's realm of possibility, and then reality is a different thing altogether. So I fully understand and appreciate that.
Susie, any questions or from the Finance Committee perspective?
Yeah, I'm somewhat new to this, so I'm trying to understand. I understand the 106,000 that is committed for the taxation for Shutesbury. I wondered if Becky could give me an idea of how that gets enacted. I don't believe it's in any numbers yet. Could you let me know?
You're on mute.
So it would be through it's a debt exclusion, right, Doug?
It's not
It can be
actually. It's just a regular borrowing. So it'd be either a bond or.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the town, it would have to follow town meeting process, Susie.
That's right. And the other thing, if I may just add a couple points, we haven't done the borrowing yet, so it won't be anything we'll ask you for until we actually do a borrowing. And then once we do a borrowing, then we'll be on each year as we go through our process of budget. A piece of our budget is our capital request, and the piece of that 106,050 that is needed for that particular year's payment will be a part of that request in a given year. So that'll be how it plays out. It'll be some fraction of that. In a project like this, I will just in the weeds on borrowing a little bit. Depending on what you build makes a difference on how long you can borrow for. So some things you can borrow for, say, 20 years, and some things you can't. And so this project's going to have a blend of things that are shorter and longer term. So it won't be necessarily, like a fixed amount of the year is this piece that covers this particular project. It'll probably be, 10 years at one rate and 10 years at another rate. That's a piece of a larger capital project plan with the regional schools.
And Doug, you usually send the debt information to us during the budget process so that we have it build it into all our schedules. And that's when you'll see it, Susie.
Yeah.
And so is that the one that got released on March 15th in 2022, the debt schedule that is it included in that?
For the track?
Yes, I'm wondering if the track piece is in there, because the numbers jump at some point pretty significantly. So this is called FY23 capital debt assessment. And it goes from FY22 to FY32. And I wondered if that projected the track part in it.
Yes, it was in there along with several other things. And there will also be, speaking of the other things here and there, we will probably rework that to try to smooth that out a little bit. I mean, certainly the feedback we got, and rightly so, was that it kind of peaks a little too high in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
It's understandable. We knew that that was going to be the case. We'll try to smooth that a bit. But it is, it is projected in and amongst that, but
subject to change.
subject to change, depends on what we end up. We can't borrow more money than what you authorize. So that's one constraint for sure. But again, if we don't need to, if the circumstances arise that, the fundraising does gangbusters and they can cover most of the project, then the borrowing that we might take on might be less than what we expect, and our use of other funds may be less than expect. That would be in an ideal circumstance. We'll see.
Bye, Linda.
And did the middle school roof get set aside as a part of the process? I don't think it's in this debt schedule.
It actually is, and that's one of the big drivers, because that one's about $3.5 million worth of borrowing.
Oh, good.
And again, so like this debt for this would probably not actually show up in an assessment to the town of Shutesbury for till probably 2025. I can't remember off the top of my head, right, whether it's 24, 25, probably 25, maybe even 26. And with the roof, we sort of push that out a year each year, because every time this, we're definitely going to use MSBA support for that. And so every year they deny us, we sort of kick it down the schedule one more year. And so it's probably in fiscal 25 is the first year that payment would hit. But again, I think that might go another couple of years out too. So that's where the process this year will be, when we talk about the debt, is to factor both of those in a way that is more realistic to what we think is going to happen.
Doug, we just have a few more minutes. The only other thing I wanted to address was that other $38,000 that you talked about. I guess, we're getting back into free cash, rolling back in $38,000 from the regional schools. And then you mentioned the ARPA money. So, the big constraints for us are, as you mentioned, we don't get that much ARPA money. We are taking a big chunk of the ARPA money to deal with our school roof problem. Just like Amherst, MSBA has kicked us down the road. We're now looking at 30-year roof, that we've had leaks in. We've got to do it. We're going to do it. And we are likely not getting MSBA money for it. So we're looking at ARPA money and looking at our other reserves. And we have a new library, like you guys do too, in the wings. So, there are a lot of demands upon both the ARPA money and upon our, free cash and stabilization funds. So while $39,000 doesn't seem like a huge amount of money in the context of, millions of dollars here, there's a lot going on and a lot of demands being made. So I think we're just going to have to, look at that, and it might be a discussion within the context of CPA. I don't know. So.
Yeah, and I fully expected that. Part of why I wanted to come tonight was to hear about those kinds of other demands, because it provides clarity and understanding of where you are financially, sort of what are the constraints you're operating under. That's helpful information for me, because it helps me to talk to other community, the other communities that we're tapping the same way, see what they are and what limitations they have and where we might find resources or not. And so that's helpful information to me, and it is, why I said and emphasize suggestions in those slides is it's truly your choices about this. And I respect that, and we all do here at the schools, and appreciate the generosity you guys share with us in our regular capital planning process and our regular operation as well. So we know about, we're aware at least a little bit, certainly our superintendent, talking to elementary school superintendent, knows about, circumstances you guys are working under there, and constraints and urgency around that, and other projects you have around town too. So fully get that and fully understand that. So I'm appreciative of hearing those things and understanding that context.
Okay, we have just a couple more minutes. Eric and Melissa, anything that I missed that you want to mention? Susie, I see your hand. If we have time, I'll let you add, but I want to get to Eric and Melissa first. You good?
Just, is there anything Doug needs from us today? I mean, or is this just information, basically?
Yeah, just trying to get sort of take the temperature and see where we're at, see what kinds of things you guys are working on, what kind of constraints and discomfort levels with the conversation. I mean, as I jokingly said to some folks, I said, I want to, if I go to one of these meetings with select boards and people, all of them, say, no way, you're getting nothing from us. That's good to know too. It doesn't sound like that's quite the answer here, but I also understand there are constraints you guys are dealing with. And so that's appreciative. And that's what I wanted to know tonight. I don't need any action or anything at this point. We'll just try to keep the lines of communication open and keep connecting with you guys.
Susie?
The other thing, Doug, is if there is a fundraising program being developed, I think it's important to extend that information to us, keep us in the loop, get us involved, get us excited, get us participating, because we will benefit from it and we can help contribute. A lot of our fundraising is effort, and we have some of that, and we have some experience.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. We'll be sure to share what we've got.
Okay, so next steps, Doug, you gonna you'll come back with a report, or are you just looking ahead to us getting into the CP?
I think, I'll probably, it's likely that I'll probably submit a request to your CPC, as I will in the other communities as well, most likely. I'll probably, either come visit you guys like this and give you updates if there's news on fundraising, or other, pieces of information relative to this, or send you a memo relative to where the things sit at the moment and that kind of thing. So I'll keep you in the loop, and we'll see if I don't want to take more time than you need from me, but I'm certainly happy to share whatever I have and I've got it. So I'm going to keep you guys updated. And it's likely I'll try to meet the deadlines for your CPC requests and
Okay.
do the mix.
Yeah, we're meeting soon, and I think we'll be doing the calendar then. What is Mateo's the date? Is it the September 22nd?
The 22nd, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's the next CPC meeting, just so you know. But that's kind of a organizational, looking at the calendar and getting information out to folks. So thanks, Doug, for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the extension of the highway superintendent's contract. And Becky, can you pull that up for us?
Yep. 1 second.
While she's doing that, Rita, does this sound better?
Yes, it does.
Okay, it's the reverb off the bottom of the computer.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I was texting Melissa saying, I think it's you.
Like it's never me, but
I know it's never you.
I have a makeshift computer holder, and I think it's a little too
okay.
silly, so I apologize.
No, it's much better. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to give an overview. Is that okay, Rita?
Yes, that would be great.
So our highway superintendent is retiring. He let us know a couple years back that he was anticipating retiring this September. But over the summer, he was reconsidering, and he now would like to extend his contract into 2023, which will give us another winter, and with him at the helm, as well as the projects through the next summer, as we anticipate the hiring of a new superintendent definitely next year. So this is an extension of his contract to September 30th, 2023. This is an unusual type of extension because it's midterm. But what I did was put in his 2023 rate of salary under compensation. That's the rate currently being paid for all our employees is the FY23 rate. With the COLA, just as it did in the prior contract, to increase annually commensurate with the adjustment recommended by town officials and supported by town meeting for the term of the contract. So that the final adjustment for his last 3 months would be based on the COLA that all employees in town receive. Every other element of the contract stays in place with no changes, just the updated end date. And as you note, this contract originated in 1999. So I think we're getting our money's worth with this person. It's been here quite a long time.
Questions, Eric or Melissa? So is that clear kind of how this works? So it's the COLA would start July 1 of 2023, but his contract is only going to go to September 30th of 2023, right? So that's how you were wording it?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood too.
Sounds good to me.
Melissa?
Yeah.
You okay? And Becky, is this typically reviewed by Donna McNichol before we execute it, or?
No, she's the one who, I mean, the original contracts were written by Donna.
Okay,
And when we make significant changes, we do review them with her, but on date changes or an extension like this, well, we've never really had an extension, but it's just lengthening the commitment until the end date that he's proposed.
Hey, Becky, can we, or Rita and Eric, can we do the same thing we've done in the last 3 contracts we signed? Can we take the person's home address out of there?
We can, if you would
Okay.
like. Is that what everybody would like to do?
sure. Yeah, I think we've just been doing that as a matter of course.
We have, yeah.
Just be consistent. Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.
I was thinking that too, noticing that anyway.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have the same well. Yeah, the first one we did was for the police department, given the issues around police. So this is not the same reason, but I understand.
Well, not the exact same reason, but still a similar, you know.
Yeah, and town council did verify that it's usually listed here for clear identification of the employee, but it's not required.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so do I hear a motion to extend the contract for the highway superintendent until September 30th, 2023?
So moved.
Second,
Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, now we go into the appointments section of the agenda. We're about 5 minutes. We have about 5 minutes before we were going to start with the historical commission. Becky, can you just tell me of this for Historic Commission, Council on Aging, Town Building, and Library Building Committee? Do you know if folks are showing up for these? Do we? We already see a couple of people here for Town Building.
Yeah,
So-
we reached out. Mary Ann reached out to people last night. I reached out to the Town Building Committee. And I think I do see, well, Mateo's here. Is Bert there too?
Bert
Yes,
is here.
Bert
Yep.
is there too. So I think and Martha Favre was gonna, Linda was reaching out to her to inform her. I'm not sure, she might be on vacation if she's not here, but I know Linda did reach out to her to let her know.
Yes, she's coming at 6:30.
Who is that? Somebody.
Martha
Council on Aging?
Favre for the Council on
Okay.
Aging is coming at
Okay.
6:30.
Okay.
Yep.
And I just saw Miriam left. Oh, no, she's still here. Miriam, is anybody for a historical commission? Do you know?
Well, I know Bert and Mateo have applied, and I think Henry is going to be signing on shortly.
Okay. All right. And how many openings do we have on historic?
We have 3.
Three. Okay. But Henry's already on.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's not right. We've got 2.
Okay. All right, great. So that just helps me to make sure. So is there anything that you can pull out for 5 minutes on town administrator updates, Becky?
Do you want to go look at, on the updates? Sure.
Yeah, just updates. I'd rather not do our work plan until, because I want to devote a little more time to that. So,
Sure. On Friday, I was, the folks doing the energy audit from National Grid, well, they're affiliated through National Grid, but they're a private company, came to do the building envelope portion of the audit. They were extremely thorough. We crawled up into the attics at the school and went after every spider web and potential air leak that could be found in the building. And the building envelope person is very experienced, and he had a wonderful way of identifying the different issues and how to best solve them. So we look forward to the report coming back from the energy audit. It will be used to apply for a Green Communities grant the beginning of October. And we are hopeful, as we found a great deal of need in the air sealing part of the school, that we're going to have potentially $200,000 of requests between LED lighting and the air sealing sections. Fortunately, the good news on the highway department, fire department, and school was that the work we've done here on our insulation over the last 10 years is been well done and is holding up very well. So that was the piece of good news. The auditor, Larry, will be back next week, if he doesn't get out here this week, to get into the attic of the library. We didn't have a big enough ladder, and there was a huge rainstorm that came, so we didn't get that piece done. So he will be coming back to do that. But at this point, I think all the needs, all available funds will need to go to the elementary school on this grant round. I can go into another one. Rita.
Sure. We have a couple
So-
more minutes.
Okay, the Personnel Board has been working extremely hard, as Melissa knows, having 3-hour and 2-hour meetings regularly.
Yep.
They have been updating job descriptions. The update to the fire chief job description included pulling out a list of tasks that they are building in and developing a template for operational standards, which is a a new supplement to job descriptions that they think will be really useful, especially when you have transition in a position. So I think Melissa and, well, George and Melody have taken the lead on doing some research, and Melissa's, as always, the reformatting and writing master, pulling it all together. So that's a big project that they've come quite a ways on already this summer.
In 2 meetings.
In 2 meetings.
Long meetings.
Yes,
I was gonna say,
we're practicing
Good.
endurance.
Well, thank you. We appreciate all the efforts you put into it. All right, so it looks like we have folks joining us, and so I'd like to kind of get started underway. And what we do when we have appointments to committees is we typically, not always, but we typically have folks who are looking for the appointment or have been recommended for a particular committee just introduce themselves and say, why they're interested in the particular position. So we're going to start this evening with the Historical Commission. And as mentioned, there are, Henry Geddes and Miriam DeFont are here, who are currently on the committee. And we have two people who have expressed interest in being appointed to the committee, Bert Fernandez and Mateo Pangalo. So Bert, why don't we start with you? You're called Elizabeth tonight, but we know you're Bert.
I don't have to change that. Yeah, so my name is Bert Fernandez. I've lived in Shutesbury for about 40 years now. I retired about 5 years ago, and I've been looking for some way to serve the town in some way. We've had a good run on this town. Our kids grew up here. We really like this town, and even though I don't have a lot of experience with anything related to history, I am willing to learn and work with the with the commission.
Good, thanks, Bert. And Mateo?
So my family is, I guess, compared to that, relatively new to Shutesbury. We've been here for about 5 years. And we've just started raising our kids in town. My background is in history. I'm an associate professor of English. My particular specializations are literary history and theater history and the history of the book. So I do a lot of work with archives and historical records and things like that. And prior to academia, I worked in several different nonprofits in Massachusetts that were associated with history and sort of local cultural tourism, including the PB Essex Museum in Salem and the Essex National Heritage Commission. So I would look to bring those experiences well to the Historical Commission.
Good, thanks, Mateo. Henry or Miriam, anything to that you want to add? Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, just to say that the committee met and we reviewed both candidates, Bert and Mateo, and they seem compelling cases for as additions to the committee. Given their backgrounds, both academic and work experience. I guess that's pretty much it. There's not much else to say.
Okay, good, thanks, Henry. And Miriam?
Hi. I was just going to say that, it would be really great to get both of these people appointed. Also, we're struggling at times meeting quorum. of late because of our vacancies. So we definitely need to fill these positions. Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so Melissa or Eric, do you have any questions for either Bert or Matteo?
I do
No.
not.
Okay, so we will take the appointments one at a time. So do I hear a motion regarding the appointment of Bert Fernandez to the Historical Commission?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Do I hear a motion regarding the appointment of Matteo Pangalo to the Historical Commission?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Congratulations, Bert and Matteo. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
the Historical Commission is looking forward to filling their ranks. And, you know, we welcome you to the
you.
Historical Commission. Okay, so we're a few minutes ahead. I know Martha, I'm just looking to see whether or not she has joined us. I don't
I do not see her.
see her. Okay. But Linda, you thought for sure she was coming this evening? Okay. All right, Becky, I'm back to you.
All right,
Yeah.
computer's back up. Okay.
Your town administrator updates are going to come in 5-minute increments,
Okay, sounds-
scattered throughout the rest of the meeting.
All right, it sounds like we're gonna get this all wrapped up.
Yeah.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about was, I've been in conversation with Michael DeCara, about the potential for ARPA funding. But the wonderful thing that led us to was the rural dirt road assessment and recommendation report. And Michael is also finding it to be a good resource and might help us as we work towards the issues about stormwater and dirt road upgrades in the future. So they outline a potential strategy for analyzing your roads that we are looking more deeply in, and then trying to figure out if we can find a contractor that might help with this project. And then the
But
MVP.
Becky, would that come back to the select board? And we periodically, we are not doing it at this meeting, and I don't know, maybe we're going to do it at the next meeting, of looking at ARPA funds. And we had applied for MVP funds for looking at stormwater management, and particularly, you know, with respect to dirt roads. So it sounds like we might be looking at using some of our ARPA funds to do some of the work that we had anticipated doing, or with
Potentially, we'll be figuring out whether there's a path through the MVP that would be compelling
Okay.
to receive that grant money, or if the ARPA money would be a better bet. So first we'll get some estimates and put some program together a little bit more refined, and then the Energy Committee will talk more about what they want to do, which direction they want to take.
So when do we expect to then hear back from the Energy Committee?
I can't tell you that. Maybe Miriam can. She's on it. I know that they meet every 3 weeks, I
Regularly,
think,
yeah.
Miriam. So it probably potentially within a month or two if they take it up. But
Yeah, I
it's,
would say that's a good.
Okay, all right, great. And is there a rural dirt roads report that,
it's the name is Rural Dirt Road Assessment and Recommendations Report. It's an MVP project that was done, I think, in 2021.
Do you have an
Right.
electronic copy of that, Becky, you could send us just to?
Yeah.
Or a link to it?
Or link?
Yeah, I can
yeah,
send
or
you a
link.
link, and if anybody needs it printed out on the select board, or let me know. And I think Miriam has a question.
Miriam?
Yeah, this is not a report about Shutesbury. It's a report
Oh.
that was commissioned by another town, right?
Right, it's 3 other towns.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
the methodology we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the roads, the rural roads in their communities are very similar. Sandusfield, New Marlboro. I had the pleasure of getting lost in both towns through Wired West, and they have wonderful rambling dirt roads, just like in Shutesbury when you try to get to Amherst Pratt Corner for the first time. So I think they're towns that are good examples for dirt roads.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I see that Martha has joined us, and you're now at the point on our agenda to do Council on Aging appointments. So in this instance, it's just one candidate for Council on Aging. And Martha, if you, what I've asked, I know you just joined us, but what I'm asking candidates to be appointed is just to introduce themselves and to make a brief statement as to their interest in serving on that particular committee. In this case, again, the Council on Aging. So if you can unmute yourself and just introduce yourself and tell us about your interest.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Martha Favre, and I live at 493 West Pelham Road. And so I'm interested in joining the Council on Aging. I've been a registered nurse since 1983, and I worked med surge for medical surgical at Cooley for 13 years. And then I became an NP, and then I've worked in college health for 21 years. So certainly aging has a lot to do with health and health issues. So I would like to be involved in this committee because I think that I can lend a voice to it. And I'd like to be involved and work in within the town and support the efforts of the town. And I think Council on Aging is a good fit for me.
Great, thanks, Martha. And anybody from the Council on Aging? Linda, do you want to just speak to COA's recommendation?
You're muted.
You just need to unmute yourself, Linda.
She's trying.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yes, we are delighted. I can speak on behalf of the council to say we're delighted to have Martha join us. She's attended a few meetings already and made some nice contributions, and she'll be a wonderful addition.
Okay, great. So do I hear a motion to appoint Martha? I want to say this right. Is it Favre?
Yes.
Okay, Favre as to the Council on Aging.
So moved.
Second,
Is there any further discussion? Or questions? I didn't even ask you, Eric or Melissa, if you had any questions for Martha.
No questions.
Sorry. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
And Farrell, aye. Okay, we are halfway through our appointments for this evening. So the next group of appointments is for the Town Building Committee, and I'm just looking to see if everyone is here.
I believe they are.
They are. Okay, great. So just very briefly at annual town meeting this year, there was a new bylaw passed establishing a new town building committee. And it was a fairly detailed bylaw replacing one that had been passed, I think, in 1988, which went into not only kind of the qualifications that we were looking for, which the 1988 bylaw was super basic. I think it was 2 sentences. And this one, which the select board worked on, also defined what we wanted the town building committee to do. So we're really thrilled that we have 4 candidates who are being put forth this evening for the new town building committee. We decided to move ahead without the 5th. There's somebody who's expressed interest but was not ready to commit quite yet. But given what's, all the projects that are going on or about to go on in town, including dealing with the school roof and the heating system and new library, we felt that we were kind of needed to go ahead and start with these town building committee appointments. So I'm just gonna start kind of at the top of my screen and go across. We have 2 candidates who have been served on the building committee in its previous iteration. And why don't we start with them? So Frank McGinn is here with us this evening. And Frank, I know you have already put in a few years on the building committee. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving on this newly configured committee.
Yeah, I had spent the past 3 years on the buildings committee. I'd never served on any town governments. The cities I lived in always were too big to have something like this. I've enjoyed it. I spent 30 years in the building material supply business. One half of that in my family's business. During all those years, I worked closely with architects, structural, civil engineers, municipal building inspectors, contractors, homeowners, business owners, and a whole bunch of people. So I have a good knowledge of the buildings trade and needs. And it was a pleasure to serve on the last committee. That's why I want to be on this one.
Great, thanks, Frank. And then Steve Sullivan is the other person who was on the building committee. So Steve, if you want to introduce yourself and just tell us what you're looking forward to in this new committee and your interest in it.
Yeah, hi, Steve Sullivan, Wendell Road. And yeah, I served on I think from 2017 till this year on the Buildings Committee. And as a school committee member and as a member of the Highway Department, I have a keen interest in the buildings in town. And from having been on the school committee and having spent 4 years working in the schools, I've developed a good working relationship with both the principal and the head custodian. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And then we have 2 other folks who are have put their names forth, Jeff Quackenbush and then Stephen Dalmas. And so Jeff, why don't we start with you? If you could just, again, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
I'm a registered architect. I'm retired now. Did 20 years in the normal architecture business and then 24 years at UMass in design and construction management division, dealing with design and construction of buildings and renovations. And I was on the Shutesbury Building Committee about 22 years ago, back with Jim DeLeva.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Back a ways.
Yep, we remember Jim. Sure.
Yep. So now that I'm retired, I've got more time to commit to town affairs, and my skill set is in building and construction. So I wanted to donate that time to this town.
Great, great. Thanks, Jeff. And Stephen Dalmas.
Hi, yes, my wife and I became permanent residents at Lake Wyola in 2019, summer 2019, which is when I retired from being a full-time residential home inspector in Baltimore, Maryland. I pursued that career for 40 years. I also have a professional degree in architecture. And I feel one of the values of my experience as a home inspector is I see or saw over 40 years how buildings and materials perform. And there's a lot, I think, to be said for that understanding. And now that I'm retired, as Jeff just mentioned, I now have the time and I have the interest, and I'm willing to, serve on the board if I'm chosen. That's it.
Okay, great. Well, it's really very exciting to have such, well qualified candidates. And so the next step is we will take them one by one and maybe, go backwards. So do I hear a motion to appoint Stephen Dalmas to the Town Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions, any questions for Stephen? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Docker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And do I hear a motion to appoint Jeff Quackenbush to the Town Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion, Melissa or Eric? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And do I hear a motion to appoint Steve Sullivan to the Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And last but not least, do I hear a motion to appoint Frank McGinn to the Town Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions for Frank? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. So congratulations to all four of you. We hope we'll have a fifth member by the next select board meeting or fifth nominee. Becky, I assume we'd love to get this committee up and rolling as soon as possible. So maybe if you want to take the lead in working with the four new members to set a time and figure out a regular schedule. And I would like to be included in on that first meeting. So, and Eric or Melissa, if either one of you want to attend, we could have it as a scheduled select board meeting too, but I'm happy to go solo.
Sure, just let us know when it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, we can determine whether or not we, if there's going to be a quorum of select board members that we posted as a select board meeting too, but okay. All right, great. Well, congratulations to all of you and thank you for your willingness to serve. We need you.
Yeah, thank you. We're very lucky to have such talent.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, a great slate of candidates. Okay, so we just have 2 minutes, but I'm gonna go ahead and just do the prep and move into the library building committee appointments. Marianne, has everybody joined us? I know that from the who are being nominated to be on the library building committee.
Let me look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think Penny Jakes is here, but she's not on screen, I think. Is that true?
Yes,
Um,
is here.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't see Molly. There's Molly. So let's see, Molly, Penny, Elaine, Stephen, and Dale. Yes, everybody is here. Molly, Penny, Elaine, Stephen, Brad, Jeff, me. Yep.
Okay, all right, great. So then we can go ahead and move ahead. So what we are entertaining now are appointments to the library building committee, and the select board voted on this a while back.
Last month.
To have a library building committee. Marianne prepared and the library trustees approved a charge for the library building committee, and I believe that the trustees met last night to review. So there was a whole process. It was open to the community for nominating, people who wanted to serve on this committee were asked to submit something to the library trustees, and the trustees met last evening and reviewed and are coming forth with recommendations for appointment to the library building committee. Anything that I don't see Kate here, but I guess you would be speaking on behalf of the trustees, Marianne. Anything to add to that?
So, I think that I can say that we had an enthusiastic response with lots of talent and support for the library, and a lot of interest in supporting this process, and a lot of dedication to the library. And so the trustees chose amongst themselves Brad Foster, who will represent the trustees, and he's here. And then there was such a talented pool of applicants that they chose to send over 5 names instead of just 4, with the understanding that you would be appointing somebody from the town building committee too. So the trustees are excited about this process going forward and are ready to get started.
Okay, so we have, I'll go a little backwards here. So we have 2 people who have just been appointed to the town buildings committee. We are, 2 hats here. But yeah, Becky, go ahead.
I just want to explain. So, oh boy, can everyone hear me still?
Yes.
Of course, it said my connection's unstable as soon as I spoke. So Mary Ammon had been on vacation last week, and Jeff had been out the week before. So we finally got them. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's everybody froze there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says my internet connection's unstable too.
So the person from the building committee being appointed by the trustees, but Mary Ann was going to speak to that.
Mary Ann.
Again, I didn't catch your whole statement.
Now everybody's starting to freeze on my screen intermittently.
Right.
So I do know on my way home, there was a telephone pole being replaced on West Pelham Road. All the wires were off of it, so I don't know if that's playing a role right now.
Good chance.
So maybe Mary Ann, did you want to?
Yeah, so Jeff and I wanted to have a conversation before. I think this is what you were saying, Becky. Before he sort of, I guess before Jeff was sure that he wanted to be on the building committee. I don't really know, but anyway, so I didn't get a letter of interest from Jeff, but I knew that Jeff was interested, and because it's summer, our schedules didn't match up until this morning. But Jeff asked everybody who I've mentioned: Stephen Dalmas, Elaine Paleo, Dale Hool, Penny Jakes, Molly Moss, and Jeff, and Brad Foster, and all the rest of the trustees have expressed a lot of understanding about the process, a lot of good questions, and a lot of dedication to the process so far. So anyway, that's where we are.
Eric and Melissa, I just want to check in with you. You know, we can go ahead and kind of individually have people introduce themselves and say whether they want to be on the committee. This is coming forth as a recommendation from the trustees. So what's your thinking? Do you want to just do a quick?
I'm okay with the en masse approach, if that's what you're asking.
I can do that. I could do either one. What's our timeline currently for meeting?
Well, we have a few minutes, so maybe we just do a really quick go round. But everybody's coming recommended. So I'm going to let Jeff and Steve off the hook here, since we already heard about their background and understand what their contributions would be to the library building committee. If you're, Eric and Melissa, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm just going to move across as folks show up on my screen. So Elaine.
Hi there. My contribution is not in the area of building, but it would be in committee coordination and community engagement. I think I'm pretty good, and I have shown my ability to run meetings, to take minutes, to keep people organized and on track. And I think this committee is going to need somebody who doesn't have building experience to help with coordinating that, and also to be a liaison to the community and try to make sure that the community feels engaged in the entire process.
Thanks, Elaine. Brad?
I am a current trustee, long enough on as a trustee that I forget when I started. Maybe I've been here 6 years as a trustee. I've been in Shutesbury for 30 years, I think. Right now, my main line of work is accounting for nonprofits. I also run some small nonprofits, so I bring management experience and communication experience and all that. I have a degree in architecture that I didn't use much. I think people like Jeff and Stephen have much more architectural background than I do. I quickly, in a recession, switched from architecture to nonprofit arts management a long time ago. And I'm very interested in the building.
Molly?
I'm a former trustee. And I'm currently the assistant director at Forbes Library, where I've been involved building projects. And I'm, part of the library community here in Western Mass. I've lived in Shutesbury for 14 years now, and my kids started doing story time at the library when they couldn't wash their hands after doing finger painting. So I'm very excited to be part of this project. I think I bring a lot of public library knowledge to the table.
Great, thanks, Molly. Dale, cool.
Yes, hi. My participation with the library actually started in 2007 as a buildings committee member when the library was planning the addition that it later built. And so because of my involvement with the addition, I became involved with library matters and later became a trustee, and was involved at that time with LIFNAC, who was the group that put forward the proposal in 2012. So in many ways, this is a continuation of the work that I've started and would like to continue with. I have, experience with the Buildings Committee. I am also a former trustee. And again, I would just like to have the opportunity to really continue and see this building get built.
Thanks, Dale. And Penny Jakes.
Hi, so I also don't have a lot of construction experience other than building our own home back in 1990. But the things that I bring to this committee are 20 years on the Conservation Commission. And I think, as we all know, there are some jurisdictional wetlands on the site. So I think that will be valuable. I just helped rewrite the open space plan, and I think that experience made me realize how important this the library and the area around the library can be developed to be the heart of our town, and I'm really excited about working towards that. Specific skills that I have are, for many years, I've served as a secretary and record keeper in my job at UMass, as a program manager for a grad program. For 10 years, I served on the Conservation Commission as the secretary and prepared correspondence and was the recording secretary for the commission. So I think a lot of those skills will be valuable to this group.
Okay, so Eric and Melissa, I wanted to see if you had any questions for any of the candidates.
Nope, I don't.
All right, so we'll go ahead. We're going to take the candidates one by one, try to keep this moving along. So I'll work jump around, but start backwards. So Penny, do I hear a motion to nominate Penny Jakes to the Library Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Do I hear a motion to appoint Jeff Quackenbush to the Library Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Do I hear a motion to appoint Stephen Dalmas to the Library Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Do I hear a motion to appoint Elaine Palaio to the Library Building Committee?
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Do I hear a motion to appoint Brad Foster to the Library Building Committee?
So moved, sorry.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Okay, I want to make sure I don't forget anybody. Okay, do I hear a motion to appoint Molly Moss to the Library Building Committee?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Do I hear a motion to appoint Dale Hool to the Library Building Committee? Mary Ann, I see your hand, don't worry. Dale Hool to the Library Building Committee?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Do I hear a motion to appoint Brad Foster to the Library Building Committee?
So moved.
Second,
I think
Any
that
further
was twice.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Becky?
I think that was the second time.
Oh, was it, did I do you already, Brad? Oh, okay.
These
I
are
took
really
care
I
of
was
you.
trying to keep track on paper, I'm sorry.
Mary Ann, do we need to appoint you? Is that why you're raising your hand?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, no.
Well,
Forget
then
the
you have to
motion.
go to the meetings. you
I say
know?
forget about it. I don't know if you're qualified. Do I hear a motion to appoint Mary Ann Antonellis to the Library Building Committee?
So moved.
second,
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Okay, I didn't forget anybody, right? I tried to do Brad twice and forget you, Mary Ann, but.
You did great.
Okay, well, I want to thank all of you who have volunteered for this really important undertaking, and we are thrilled to have such a deep bench for this big project. So you'll be hearing, I'm sure, from Mary Ann around when these meetings will get started. So congratulations, and Penny, you had a question? You have to unmute yourself if you want to ask.
Unrelated to this topic, but related to the Friends of the Library.
Is it a topic for the, is it a question for the select board?
It is.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So as you know, the Friends of the Library are working hard to raise over $200,000 by the time the new library is built. And they're doing this through many avenues, one of which is a program with the Stop and Shop grocery store, where when you buy a reusable bag there, the library can get $1 for each bag that is sold. And we requested to put information about this in the town newsletter, and we're told that because the Stop and Shop is a commercial endeavor that the select board would need to approve, including this in the newsletter based on the bylaw. And I just wanted to raise that with you tonight while I have your rapt attention.
Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, I can let you know that Janice Gray, editor of the newsletter, and myself as the town hall liaison received a request for a piece to be put in the newsletter regarding this. And the party who asked for this, we let them know, we cited the policy and let them know that, you know, Stop and Shop is a commercial profit-making endeavor, and that the sale of the bags is not 100% to the library. It's only 50% of the cost of the bags. So it doesn't meet the criteria set forth by the policy. So that's what we communicated.
And
Okay.
when I read the policy, it stated that this was subject to the final approval of the select board. So that's why I'm asking. So here's
Eric?
the way it works is the bags sell for $2.50. $1 of that comes to the library if you tag it to be such. And many nonprofits use this. Right now, I think it's, I forget who the nonprofit is that's being especially served by this, but I know next month it's the Academy of Music. And so the way it works is, well, it's complicated. I don't know if you want to know all the details, but.
No, I don't think we need all the details. Becky, did you have?
We're not encouraging people to shop at Stop and Shop. We're encouraging them, if they're there and they need a bag, to buy one, and let people know that if they go through this process of targeting their dollar for the Shutesbury Library, that's where it will go.
And does it just last for a month?
No, it lasts for a year, but you have the possibility of being the group of the month, where all of the dollars that aren't targeted to a particular place come to you. So I think we're in the queue to be one of those groups at some point within the next year. We don't have a month specified yet.
Becky?
I was just going to mention that the development of the policy for the newsletter took quite a bit of exacting work from the select board. There are all kinds of competing issues with the newsletter, always trying to get ties, to commercial elements. The reason it would be the select board, it would only be the select board that could allow for the policy to not be followed or to maybe change it. But I think tonight might not be the place to start that discussion, and maybe this should be tabled to another meeting, but the select board's choice.
Thanks, Becky. Melissa and Eric, what are your thoughts?
Well, it wasn't, this seems like a pretty big item that wasn't on the agenda that people, who knows, maybe we'd have 50 people there objecting to this. I have no idea, but I'm not opposed to like moving it off to another meeting. I'm not trying to stop it from happening necessarily, but I'm just a little more worried about it's a pretty big agenda item to me to not be advertised as an agenda item.
Yeah, and I'd like to look at the policy again, just to read. I mean, it was part of writing it, but I don't remember all of, I don't remember all of it specifically. But to be able to look at that before discussion too.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, Linda?
Yes, and also it would be important for Janice Gray to be present because the inquiries often go to her first.
Okay, great. Good suggestion. All right.
The only downside is the newsletter is only published 3 times a year. So we lose a third of a year of getting the word out if we delay this. When is the deadline? It's quite soon, right, Linda?
Yes, it's the 8th.
Mhm.
8th of September.
Becky?
There are other ways to advertise the information that don't involve the town. The library has found been resourceful of finding other avenues.
Yeah, and we are doing those as well.
Okay, I think the consensus is that we would do this at a future meeting. So Becky, if you could put that on the list for one of our upcoming meetings. So thanks. So we have finished with the library building committee appointments. And again, thank you to all of you for coming this evening and for your willingness to serve, and have a good evening. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. It's so much fun.
Right?
But we only have one remaining item, and that's the completion of the town administrator updates, and to talk about select board planning tool, just looking ahead. This is something that we did last year, and I know it was particularly useful for me as chair to have Becky prepare a kind of master schedule. So looking ahead over the course of this, the remainder of this fiscal year, by month, what kinds of things will be coming up that we can just anticipate. Obviously, there's always items that things that happen that end up on our agenda, but sort of the bigger issues, work issues for the select board. So Becky, I believe you have something drafted. You had a format last year, which seemed to work really well.
1 second.
Is my camera frozen?
Not working.
Okay. Because I'm looking at myself and I'm seeing it wrong. So,
We're not seeing you, Melissa.
Yeah.
All right.
And you were
Well, I'm still here
frozen
verbally anyway.
and you were frozen before that, Melissa, too.
Yeah, I think I need an update, so I apologize.
Okay, so this is a work in progress for me. So any suggestions are always helpful. We've been moving things down. Throughout the summer, we started the ARPA discussions. I moved those down. We started those in the beginning of July. But it looks like we're going to be continuing them into September, having zeroed in on the roof as the largest element. There's still information to come in from the Energy Committee. And so I'm assuming that those things, I don't know if you want to discuss at the next meeting or not, but I tentatively listed for the next meeting. The retirement of the highway superintendent, we started talking about back in May, and now we're putting that off till next year, which is kind of a good break. The guardrail meetings, that's the current topic of the regional assessment agreement. We imagine we'll end up in a 4-town meeting in January. But those discussions have begun, and Doug has started sharing the information with the Finance Committee and Select Board. The culvert also put up till next year. So this is not going to happen this year. We are considering a fall special town meeting. The one item I have now is the roof construction appropriation. But we've got to get the design completed first.
Becky, what's the timing on the design and completion of the design?
It's going to take at least, well, the bid has to get awarded. And so we're probably 3 months out.
Okay. But we're really targeting doing a special town meeting once we have a bid,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. So I'm sorry, I just got Meryl's can't get into the Zoom account for her meeting, so I just need to relay a message to Grace. Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, right. So the recycling committee, I saw that they were meeting.
Yeah, because I can't help her. It's Grace's account. I can give her this one once we're done, but.
We're almost done, right?
Yeah, it's 1282. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, maybe what we can do, Becky, is if Melissa and Eric and I go through this and see where, what else maybe belongs on this schedule or where we have questions. Just looking ahead to this next fiscal year, and it would be good if we can just at least begin to sketch out when we would have a special town meeting. That's going to be,
Okay.
I know for some of us who try to take some time away from the winter, it'd be good to know what we're looking at.
It might also be helpful maybe to merge that tentative schedule that we were using at the beginning of our year, the one that we had just kind of used as tentative, we're meeting on these dates in conjunction with this. It might be good to move the,
Right, so incorporate that, Melissa?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing
That's a good idea.
jumping out, I don't see here, and I know this is, you just asked the question, was if there's any contract negotiations that need to happen in this next year, so that we don't lose track of them.
Yeah, we don't have any until we're contracting with a new highway superintendent, which is a year away.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure we have them on our radar. That's
Yeah. Okay, so we'll give you feedback so that we can kind of finalize this at the next, or have the working document as of the next select board meeting. So we'll all just get back to you, Becky, individually. The only other thing I wanted to mention is I had asked the Conservation Commission to put us on the agenda for their meeting on the 8th, which they said they would do. So we would have that as a posted select board meeting. I've not gotten a time from Marion DeFont, the chair. But if you would just make a note, their meetings typically start at 7. I know she mentioned in an email to me just that they'll probably have a couple of hearings. I don't expect this will be a long select board meeting, but I think it would be good for us to be touching base with the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Oh, I think that's true.
Good. Okay. All right. So we'll get information back to you, Becky, and I think we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Maybe free up Linda?
Yeah, I just had one quick suggestion regarding the planning tool, and that would be to add the Clark and SAC, the Clark licensing in early December, and SAC end of November, early December.
Okay, so I have a question, Rita. I thought the goal of this was more the things that are out of cycle, not the all the annual items that are regularly that we anticipate.
Yeah.
Have a schedule that does that.
That does all the regular items?
Yeah, so I'm a little confused.
Yeah, by putting other stuff in.
I misunderstood, that's all, yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is sort of, bigger projects.
Yeah.
It's like what, I like to have a sense of what are we gonna be looking at that's kind of out of the ordinary, so.
Okay, yeah.
Right, that's a good idea.
And all boards meetings are out of the ordinary because we haven't done them for 3 years. But hopefully they'll be ordinary someday soon.
So we're going to try to do that in October.
Well, it's up to you guys. I'm
going to raise it. So let's put that on the agenda for our next meeting too.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening. Have a good dinner.
I'm waving. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, Melissa. I can't wait to see you again.
I know, I'm gonna update my thing now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.